Akhil.
Thanks. And it's a good listening to all of you and also taking the question from the audience. Now I have a questions for the audience. If you can go to the next slide, please. You know, last year, June, there is an article and it says bank has spent 1 trillion on digital, but few reap the rewards. And just a month before, the Economist, and it says, a 3rd of May 2019, the text read on the banks. Now, the question to all of the audience, what could be the reason? What could be the reason? Please open up your chat box and put your thoughts. Why the banks are not getting benefited by the tech? Why the Economist is coming up with such kind of an article? What we as a collective IT professionals, technology professionals have done to receive this kind of articles? Yeah. Dimitri, you are saying some
While we
kind of a...
wait for the, yeah, go ahead, Akhil. While we're waiting for the responses, we'll feed that back to you.
Yeah, yeah. And the whole idea of, if you could move to the next, is that we have done, the challenge was that these all banks said that, my goodness, we have automated tools, we have covered the new technologies, this is what the digital transformation was. You guys talked about the processes to be put in place, but we are not getting the value. And if you look at, Anant spoke about, Rajat spoke about, Rick spoke about the business value. The question is how we realize the value, business value. You have done the technologies, and the answer we also found after some discussions and some brainstorming sessions, and there are tech leaders and researchers, they came out and said that the value realization, we should create some kind of conduit how the technology is going to create the value for it. Yeah. And that is somehow, if you can move to the next slide, is that client centric. All the clients are not looking for technology, they are looking for the values. And one of the principles in our programs or the DevOps structure is was the first principles indeed. We talked about client-centric value creation. How are we creating the values? What are we doing? And if you look at the DevOps as such, both the books, the Phoenix Project and as well as the DevOps Handbook, we talked about the 3 ways. The first one, create the flow, move. Whatever the ideas, the hypothesis which our business is coming out, and deliver it, put it into the systems to people to realize it. Now, when you're putting them together, are you collecting the feedback? Are you collecting the feedback from the upstream systems? Are you getting the customer oriented to that what you have put together? Are you getting the insights from them? And then again, bringing back for the continuous improvement. And that is what we have missed to be called as a $1 trillion waste, or that we have raided the economy. Yeah. So how do we create that particular 3 things is the DevOps it provides. And if you do these 3 ways together, definitely we are going to have the business value realization. Yeah, it will create the sustained business success. We'll also be engaged, all the stakeholders will be engaged, and we are going to be innovative because we are going to get some ideas from them. And it's all not about creating the great ideas, but the smaller incremental value changes. And that's the power of what we're going to talk about. And and it is not that the first time we're talking about the value creation. If you can move to the next slide, please. Anyone knows when was the value chain kind of things was discussed? Anyone? Anyone have heard of the business value chain? Anyone? Business value chain was discussed by Porter, one of the great management guru, in one of his books called Competitive Advantages. So business value are existing. That how do you create the business values? But unfortunately, fortunately, we lost into our technology world and we lost to that. What it talks about, and if modified version in our case, is that end-to-end set activities performed to deliver value to a customer through a product or a service. That's a value chain. How are you going to create that activities which the customer is looking for? And how is that going to be possible? How is that going to be possible? And you have heard from Rajat, you have heard from Anant, you have also heard from the Rick, that if you do only one thing, you are not going to get the value. To get the value, you need to create the mindset, the culture of value creation. You need to have aligned a structure, the organizational structure which produce the values. And of course, you need to have the processes which we have been talking from last decade about agile, about lean, about DevOps. And of course, we are all technology guys, so it is also required to have the IT systems which is aligned with the value which you are going to produce, aligned the automation which is structured is required to take care of, aligned to the processes. So if you have the integral approach of the 4 elements, which is what also we talked in I think the Rick and Dimitri has brought in 2016, the 4 focus areas of us: the culture, the organization, the process, and the automation. If you bring them all together, that's how you're going to create the value stream. Yeah, and I have a proof for that, and I will show you in the next slide that how we are talking about it. Yeah, so it's if you look at some time back, the Porter framework was taken and called IT for IT. Now we are calling that as IT for business, IT for business creation, right? Strategy to portfolio. All great people have created the strategies. This is what we are going to do for the first 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And this is what the portfolio is going to look like. We plan that. We have been planning. And then we are given to the systems to us and deliver it. A requirement comes after the planning stages. We take them and deploy them in the system. Of course, how we deploy is going to be also mattering. And then deliver. For that particular requirement to be built, you require infrastructure. That is going to be, you have to build that particular infrastructure. And once that infrastructure has that application put onto that, then you're going to run. And that's how the 4 different value chain were existing. Unfortunately, we're going to see how it was existing before and now what we're talking about. So if you can go to the next bit of it, please. Yeah. So if the old age, our own world where we worked, every single thing were in hands-off, external hands-off. They're not all together. We are all the business guys, the opportunities guys were talking about what is opportunities. They will come out with that. They will design the complete architectures and things like that. Then it will pass back to the requirements. Again, hands-off to the design team. Design team will pass on to the dev team. And that's a traditional way. We're not together. We're all doing the hands-off. Then we find that there is something wrong in this particular value system. Then we move together and come out the agile world. What is that agile world doing? Agile world says yes, agile with release silos. So we are going to build that application and we'll do the hands-off to deliver to the infrastructure guys, and then after that to run. Again, we found there is not great value, so it's going to be realized. Then move to, okay, so let's bring them together, dev and ops together. The release is going to happen together. And then I will able to release, but still we found that the values are not coming at that kind of pace or that kind of what the business is looking for. Then we move to the next. Then he said, no, the design also should also come together. Yeah. And then there is something more is required, something else was missing. Then we move to the next. And what is that next? Is that DevOps, the great world in 2008 and 2012 in India, when we were all came together. And then he said that collaboration is increasing. We need to do that. Big hype. But what we left out is the business out of the world. How are you going to do the requirement planning? Then the feature factory came in. And there is an article we have published onto the DASA feature factory model, right? We forgot about the human element out of it. So when we started creating this DevOps, we are also started forgetting about the people side of it. And then the design thinking world came, the human-centric approach to software development. And we said, let's get the feature factory move out as a human-centric approach. Can we have that discussions? And the human are also the business people, so can we integrate them as well as part of it, right? And the whole value chain, if you can go to the next, is called the product team, where every single one is there. If you can go to the next one. Yeah. So the entire value system is one single team. The cross-functional collaboration, a start to work to finish, is together. They're all together. And when you want to bring them together, it is possible only by technology? No. Is it possible only by the process? No. Is it possible only by the organizational structure? No. All that four had to work. If one element of this is misses, we would not get that value. We will not get that value. And that is the reason why you saw in The Economist. That is the reason why you saw in the Bloomberg that we are raiding the businesses. You need to bring them together. Yeah. So how do you bring them? Create the flow. Maximize that value, the value to them, right? Opportunity to run. What do you do in the opportunity? We design. There is an architectural methodology which you put together. We call it the flow. How do you create the flow for the opportunities to go to from a start new to the close? Then, of course, that has been put together to run. Those particular things had to be run. So there is a process which you have put together. Some incidents will happen. Some new kind of change requests will come. And then the big part of the design dev on team, and then the releases. All of them have come together. They all have to come together, and they have the interrelation between each one of them to deliver that flow. That we need to architect in the context of what exactly the business is looking for, as Nivarti was talking about, that what is the most important value chain the customer will get. And I'll talk about one of them in a while. If you go to the next, this is what a typical your flow architecture will look like. If you can go to the next, how do you do that? Yes, this is what the flow is. If you can go to the next, please. Yeah. So when you're going to do that, you would have to look at the architecture. And before that, you have to look at transformation team. You as a coach, as a leaders, how are you going to decide? How are you going to work together? What is the most important value which you are going to put together? And then what are the risks which is associated with that? What would be our organizational structure would look like? And when we talk about the structure, we're also talking about the culture. Then what is the reporting structure we are going to have? It's sort of cross-functional team. So how are you going to report? What are the matrices which you are going to put together, the measurement for that? And everybody in the world of the DevOps talking about the tooling. Is the tools required or the value required? And how are you going to ensure that the tools are the upstream and the downstreams are going to work together to get you that value? And for that, do you require some training? This is where the DASA comes in, provide you that particular facilitation certifications to take them from. And then, yes, how you're architected, the customer, the king, the customer-centric approach. From there, you are creating the product portfolios, the product management part of it. And then you plan, then you code, you build, test, deploy, and operate, as that we talk about the 4 value streams, all them coming together. Yeah, and that's the tenet of the value stream creation. If you can move to the next. Yeah. Values. So if you do that architecture, it's a little bit more intelligence. That customer, external customers, this is what he's going to look at. This is a value which you want to do. To get to that values, you have a number of business services, you have a number of platform products which you will be developing it, which he do not see it. right? We have been always happy developing the product platforms, platform products. We're not looking at the business products. We're looking for the developing the technology products. And that's what we're saying, that we have to integrate that. And for doing that, you require real DevOps teams, which has this particular culture. They understand the language, they understand the communications, and how are you going to create that network from starting from the business to run? Yeah, and that's a very, you need to look at it from the context perspective. Look at the example of one of them. What is the business is looking for? What is the business product? Online retail. Jio has been launched very recently in India. Yeah, the business product. So this is what the business is looking for. This is where the value will come through. For that, there are a number of internal products needs to be developed. And then we need to have the common set of tools. The tools which is going to impactfully using for every single one of them. Yeah. So if you are creating the value stream, you need to look at from that, what is the business value we are going to create, what are the internal products are, and what are the tools we are going to use it. Of course, at the other side, you will also put together the whole of the architecture from the way we call it as a people's architecture, the business architecture, the application and technology and architectures, and then so on and so forth. But that's what you will be doing as an example. Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to listen from all of you. If you have any questions and you're able to.
Thank you, Akhil. So that was a really a fabulous, session where he tried to really decode the mystery, if you will, of the different levels of complexities they have, right? Starting from strategy of the organization to how finally the business value gets delivered. So it's great to be able to build that strategy, but you have to finally execute and get that value delivered. So what are the different layers that you need to have, and how do you see it in an integrated manner? The essence of value stream architecture is in an integrated fashion, and that's why it is called the value stream architecture. So keep coming up with your questions. I did see a couple of questions around whether the slides would be available and the recordings would be available. The answer is a definitive yes. You will get a follow-up mailer in about a week or so. We will give you a link. The recordings and the slides would be hosted for you to go through. We will also do a similar thing in terms of trying to look at all the questions, and if there are similar patterns around questions, and get you some responses as well. So keep coming up with more questions around this. Over to you, Dimitri, before the break, if you had any key messages that you want to leave with the audience.
So first of all, thanks for the interactions, and also thanks for reflecting on Akhilesh's case study on this bank. I think many of you, also Sunil, welcome for joining us and providing your insights. It's good to see so many answers and reflections. I think we were looking in the chat box, but they were all in the question bar. So thanks for that. So Anand, also looking at the time, I think we had a very good start. I suggest we all take a short break, get back into the second part of the program, and looking at all the feedback so far, I think we're very well on track, doing very well together.
We are on track. From a time perspective, I do want to reaffirm that. Let us take the 15-minute break, get re-energized, get a stretch, get a coffee, whatever you need to do. We'll just put ourselves on mute. So everybody stays in the same forum, but we'll just put ourselves on mute and come back exactly in 15 minutes. So my watch right now, the India time shows at 3:35. So if we come back at 10 minutes to 4, that is 3:50, I think that will be good for us to get going. Is that good enough, Dimitri?
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And
so in the meanwhile, we can look at some of the questions as well.
Yes, so if there are any questions in between, which would be my recommendation, post them and we'll get them back after the break, because after the break we'll be looking at the DevOps transformation study from Deb Tripathi, and after that we're going to look at the Lean Agile transformation with insights also from Hari. So it's a very exciting next step. So let's have a short break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back. Welcome back from the break. Hope you all had an opportunity to grab something to freshen yourself up. I do see one question. Rajat, are you there by any chance?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. Yeah, there was an interesting question. I thought we can start off after the break with that question. The question is how to manage micromanagement by client and how to integrate them into the product team. It's asked by Binayak. And the reason I'm really sending it across to you is because you did spoke about espoused values and really building in autonomy, a culture of autonomy, and so on and so forth. So this is a little bit of, I think, touching upon some of the tenets of what you spoke within culture. So if a client really believes in micromanaging, how do you sort of get them into all these constructs in the middle of this?
Okay,
Any tips that you may have?
yeah. That's so. This will be a highly contextualized question, and what I can sense from this question, and correct me here, is that the client is coming with a very different value system and has been habituated to controlling what we are doing as service providers for what they want. Right now, this is a value conflict. And value conflicts don't go away easily. Usually, the quickest and the most short-term way is to try and align to those values, to try and manage them. But beyond a point, it is also possible to influence these values. So when we were talking of the three interventions for culture transformation, we're talking of leadership, the modes, and the social learning. Now here, usually social learning is the one that makes an impact, because when you start building an emotional connect with people, you'll be amazed at how they are willing to step away from their core values so that they build that alignment, that relationship with you. So these kind of challenges, these kind of value conflict challenges can be handled very effectively when you build a strong emotional relationship and you start convincing them that yes, don't worry, you don't need to micromanage me. I can do things. This is how I'm doing it. This is how it has worked for me, and it'll work for you. So this could be one of the ways that you could resolve this kind of a challenge.
And to just add on to what you said, I want to provide a little additional perspective as well. From a DASA perspective, these are the challenges why the role of a DevOps coach was conceptualized. So coach is really a position of influence, and there is an involvement and the need to take the stakeholders along. And the stakeholders are not going to sing the same song and sing the same tune. So it's extremely important. The coach has to have that mental makeup, the ability to influence, the ability to take people who think differently along, influence them because they don't have a position of authority. And so you will see that a lot of the coach program itself is sort of found in the foundations of that is built on some of these sort of scenarios that's coming up and which are very real.